What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Today, we're taking a much more lighthearted approach to some of the ways that private practice looks different today than it did when I first started in private practice in 2012. I thought I would just have a little bit of fun with it, okay? I needed like a little palate cleanser, some levity in what can feel kind of chaotic. So today, just for funsies, I have present day Marie interview 2012 Marie in private practice. Now, back in 2012, I started my private practice in San Francisco as a postdoc, and I've been in private practice ever since. And boy, oh boy, does it look so different now than it did then. And the more I got to thinking about it, the more I realized like 2012 really does feel like 1,000 years ago when it comes to private practice. And most of the things that I share in this little skit are true facts about my 2012 practice, though a few of them are embellished just in the sense that they might have been things that I heard were going on for my colleagues in private practice, but not necessarily things that I was experiencing. So I took a little creative freedom in that sense, but I really did try to represent what private practice was like in 2012 from what I can remember back then. The hope is that we have a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of a walk down nostalgia lane. It's okay to be grateful for some of the ways that things are different now. And, there might be some things that we wish could be a little bit more like how they used to be. And all of that's all right. But let's dive into it. 2026 Marie is going to interview 2012 Marie now. 2012 Marie. Wow, you look so dressed up. Is this what you wear while seeing clients? This? I have a few pairs of slacks on rotation to keep things fresh. I picked up this pair from the Limited at the mall. And I wear these same heels every day. Those are cute shoes. Are they comfortable? Definitely not. And then I dress it down with a sweater instead of a blazer so I don't look too stuffy. Standard therapist outfit, right? Anywho, you look comfy. Is this your day off? Oh, no. I guess my elastic wide leg pants and t-shirt are a little casual. Anyway, do you see your clients virtually or do you have a hybrid practice? I'm sorry, what now? Virtually? Yeah, online, like through video. Oh, right. A colleague of mine told me they know a therapist who does that, but if I'm honest, I would only see therapy clients in person. Online therapy isn't as effective as in-person therapy, Actually, there's research now that shows it's just as effective as meeting in person, and it can help more folks access care. Plus, who knows? There could be a world pandemic and then we couldn't meet in person. Oh wait, you're serious? I see. You're catastrophizing. A pandemic that shuts down the whole world is so unlikely that it will never happen. A therapist could help you manage your anxious thought patterns. I can refer you to a colleague if you'd like. No, I'm good. Anyway, people are wondering how you're marketing your practice in 2012. Oh, the usual stuff. I go to local networking events with other professionals like doctors and lawyers and word of mouth, but most of my referrals come through my online directory listing. It's kind of new and fancy, but it keeps a steady stream of clients coming. Wow, you make it sound so easy. Do you have a niche? What's your online marketing strategy? I'm sorry, a niche? Online marketing strategy? I'm not following. Like a website, SEO, that sort of thing. I know a couple therapists who have a website, but I don't think I really need one. I have no idea what SEO is. Is that a new theoretical approach in 2026? Never mind. So you're really staying full just with a Psychology Today listing? What strategy are you using there? Strategy? Nothing special. I just wrote on my profile that I provide a warm and non-judgmental space and that I value the privilege of walking with folks through the sacred therapeutic journey, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I check almost all the boxes for areas of specialty since I'm qualified to work with most of them. Anyway, so tell me, does the stigma against mental health get any better by 2026? Well, I think so. People are definitely talking about mental health more, like a lot more. Oh, wow, that's really great to hear. I don't know if you remember, but back in 2012, the world seems real bleak these days. So it sounds like we really make some headway over the next 14 years. Ooh, headway. Are you okay? Yeah, never mind. Okay, so if people are talking about mental health more, that must mean that it's so much easier to get insurance coverage for mental health care, right? In 2012, we're having to call insurance panels before seeing therapy clients to get prior authorization And sometimes insurance claims get denied even when clients were pre-authorized because insurance companies claim their diagnosis isn't severe enough. Can you believe that? Every time I have a new client applying insurance for therapy, I have to call their insurance company and then send paperwork via fax. We're still sending faxes in 2012? Please tell me you don't have to send faxes anymore. Oh, thank God, no. Oh, good. Right. Yeah, I bet now you can just run their insurance card through the computer to apply their coverage. No more complicated paperwork, right? Not exactly. Wait, what? Yeah, about that, insurance hasn't exactly gotten easier over the years. Reimbursement rates are not as comparable to cash rates as they used to be in your day, and people are still dealing with clawbacks, sometimes even years later. It's complicated. Okay, but you said people are talking about mental health more. Does that mean people are leaning on their support networks more and sharing vulnerably with friends? It depends on what you mean by friends. You know, friends, the people they see and talk to every day, talking to coworkers during lunch break, that sort of thing. A lot of people are remote now. Like, they work from home. Oh, okay. So where are people talking more about mental health then? Oh, just places like TikTok, Instagram. Oh, Instagram is still around? I bet the Valencia filter looks amazing on your high-tech phone cameras in 2026. Yeah, I digress. Okay, so you're saying people are sharing more about mental health online in 2026. Oh, that's great news. People must be so much better informed about mental health then. About that, unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation about mental health online. Most of the information on social media has inaccuracies. Ah, yikes. Too bad therapists aren't allowed on social media, though. We would set the record straight, right? Oh, actually, therapists are all over social media now. Really? That makes sense. The governing boards must have updated the laws to keep up with the times then. Well, no. Huh? Yeah, you know, there was never an official rule forbidding us from being on social media, so therapists just started being online more, and it started to be a thing, I guess. Now therapists even use social media to market their therapy practice. Weird. Is that ethical? Anyway, so are therapists setting the record straight online, correcting all the misinformation out there? Unfortunately, therapists are often the source of misinformation. What? That would never happen in 2012. Actually, some of the therapists pushing pseudoscience on social media today were writing their future best-selling books back in 2012. Oh, that's not comforting news. Okay, let's try getting back to some of my questions. In 2012, other than a computer, what else do you need to run your therapy practice? Oh, not that much, I guess. Let's see, I have my notepad and pens. Yep. Tissues, obviously. And what's that over there? Huh? Yeah, that giant cabinet. Oh, this? This is my file cabinet with all my client files. Oh, wait, all of your client files? Not all of them. That would be so wild. In the state of California, I just keep all my files that have been active for the last 7 years. What do you do with them then? Oh, I shred them in my shredder. Okay, what else do you have for your practice in 2012? I also have my printer. What do you need a printer for? Oh, like everything. Client notes pages, intake forms, assessments, client resources. Oh yeah, intakes. Wow, so your clients come in early enough to fill out their history and everything in pen? Yeah, I mean, how else would you do it? Never mind. Okay, so is that about everything you need for your practice in 2012? Pretty much, I guess. The rest is pretty obvious, I think. You know, my planner, of course. I have a little pocket inside where I put client checks so I don't have to open my file cabinet between sessions. And my clipboard, that's a lot of stuff. Oh, and my office, of course, but that's obviously the same in 2026, right? Not necessarily. What do you mean? A lot of therapists work from home. It saves a huge expense and it can be really convenient. Ah, I have a friend who does that. I just don't feel comfortable with clients driving to my house and knowing where I live, you know? No, I mean virtually, like on the computer. Oh, right, there you are babbling on about that again. Teletherapy can't be as effective as meeting in person, I'm telling you. Plus, how would you accept payment? Do they mail their check to your house? Nobody pays in checks anymore. You just save their card on file. Oh, I see. Like a photocopy of their credit card in your file cabinet? Is that safe? Wait, so if you're meeting folks virtually, does that mean you can work with folks who live far away? Yep. Anywhere you're licensed to practice. Wow, that's cool. So it must be so much easier to fill your practice then. No, we have to outcompete big tech companies now. Big tech? Like Amazon, Google? What does that have to do with therapy? Now there are big tech therapy companies that make it easier to access therapy, but they do so in a way that doesn't compensate therapists well, and the quality of care suffers. Kind of like DoorDash, you know? What's DoorDash? That sounds fun. Oh, right. I mean, kind of like Uber or Instacart. I've heard of those. They just launched in my area. Seems pretty neat. But what's so bad about those? You can just pick up and start working without a lot of the hassle, and it seems like they pay pretty well, right? Yeah. That's what therapists said about big tech companies too. Wow, I guess I really forgot how much pen and paper things still were back in 2012. Technology does sound pretty advanced in 2026. So what else is it helping with? Oh, a whole lot. It's really easy to send forms and emails to your clients securely and use templates to write your notes. AI can even help write notes now. AI. Oh, I know, like that fancy chess playing robot that can beat the pros. Oh, right. Kind of, except AI can do a lot of other stuff now. You can talk to your computer and it can help you with things. Oh, I know, like Siri. Check this out. Hey Siri, find a taco shop nearby.
One option I've found is Tacos El Gordo on F Street in San Diego. About 10 miles to your south, and it gets 81% positive ratings. Would you like to try that one?
Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, except it can do way more than help you find a local taco shop. Cool. So what else is AI doing? Well, I guess not all of it is good. Like, people are using AI for therapy. Huh. Like, for therapy homework between sessions? No, like, people are talking to AI instead of seeing a therapist. That's a funny one. Wait, you can't be serious though. No. Dead serious. Wow. Okay, but everyone must be in outrage, right? Some of us are, but big tech companies are training their AI bots on therapy text messages folks are having with their therapists through these apps. And there's an appeal because a lot of these apps are free or affordable, and therapy is even harder to afford than it was in 2012. That sounds really sad. Like, super dystopian. It reminds me of 1984. Yep. That's what people are saying today, too. Oh, gosh. You know, I had liked the sound of working from my computer and streamlining a lot of private practice, but 2026 sounds worse than it is now in 2012. Yeah. So, I bet my giant filing cabinet is looking pretty nostalgic to you right now, right? Well, I hope this brought a little bit of levity and laughter to your day, whatever you have going on. Feel free to add in the comments what sorts of things you remember being different, like back in the 2010s compared to private practice now. And we can kind of just remember what things are different, because I know I only covered some of them. If you're interested in more of my thoughts and deep dive reflections, I'll do more of a chit-chat version in the extended cut of this episode, but for today, we'll leave it off here. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with all of your practice management needs, from scheduling to notes to billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform included for free for all users, and a whole suite of AI features to, yes, streamline your documentation process. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, thank you for joining me today. I had fun recording this, I'm not gonna lie. I hope you had some fun joining me and watching it. And I hope it took you down a little, maybe a nostalgic walk down memory lane. Or if you're newer to private practice or to the field, did this just sound like, does this sound like the oldest ancient? I don't know. Yeah, people were still paying checks for therapy in 2012. I feel so old. Okay, until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.